And so the reality is, for a church to be missional, it's not just something that we speak to. It's an expectant that God's people, the New Testament expects that God's people would be bringing people to church that don't know, love, and trust Jesus. It's expected that non-Christians would be here. And guess what? They didn't have YouTube channels, Instagram reels. They didn't have mail invites. They didn't have any of these things when this was written. How did people hear about the church, and how did they gather, and how did they join it? Someone had to tell them. Someone had to invite them. And so one of the reasons why I think oftentimes we don't like to invite people is because, that we got to deal with the consequences of that. Because if we're not going to water things down, and we're not going to, sugarcoat the truth, and we're not going to, say things just to please the ears of the people, and we're going to make this about God and not man, then they're going to hear things that they disagree with. They're going to hear things that rattle their worldview. They're going to hear things that maybe make them uncomfortable. And then it leaves you in a weird position because you got to talk to them about it. Half the reason why we don't invite people to church is, number one, we don't want to take responsibility for God's commission in the Great Commission. And number two, we don't expect God to change hearts. We think we bring them here and people here, and it's just an exercise we do. It's just humans getting together. It's just the flesh coming together. And if we can convince people with our own words, then maybe, how's that changed your life? Just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Just try to motivate yourself to become a new year, new you. It doesn't work. We need the Spirit and power of God to transform us. And we're going to get into Spirit and power worship here later. But I want us to see that reality is that you inviting people to church to join you is you saying, I believe that God shows up in these places. I believe God has ordained this. I believe that God, we talked about this last week, preaching as a way that God saves sinners, that Timothy is to labor and keep doing that. Additionally, it is your responsibility, because love your friend, to bring them, they hear the gospel, and then follow up with them and help them see, what'd you think? Where did this challenge you? It means that you actually have to have real friends, do real life, and have, awkward conversations about real eternities. Not just, hey, maybe the preacher will convince them and they got saved and maybe I don't have to deal with it. Maybe God wants to use you. Maybe I'm planting seeds, but he wants to seal the deal with you. Maybe he wants, as Paul said, he planted Apollos water, but God calls the growth. Maybe he wants you to reap the harvest. But if you don't expect God to want you to reap the harvest, then you will never show up with the expectancy with a friend that God might change. You might lose a friend. They might hate you. They might do all those things. I don't know. The point is that there's a reality that in order for a church to be missional, to be all things to all people, it has to do with God, the people of God who are coming to worship the God of the Bible, and they want other people to see and worship the God of the Bible.